Save on new appliances at Best Buy. Tis the season to save at Best Buy.
Change that by explaining everything you need to know in under an hour without any of the fluff. I'll also be avoiding spoilers as much as possible. Feel free to skip around. I've cut the video into labeled chapters on the YouTube time bar so you can find whatever you need. The very first thing you want to do in your vintage story world is source some stone that you can use to make your tools. Certain stones, like shale rock as you can see here, are too soft to be used to make tools. By searching through leaves and looking at the top of the screen, you'll see branchy leaves. These drop sticks when broken. After a little bit of searching, you'll more than likely come across some flint. By shift right-clicking the ground with the flint, you'll open up the recipe selection. From there, you can choose a tool to make. With your tool selected, click the grid with another stone to remove pixels until you've outlined the shape of the tool in the grid. When the process is complete, you'll have whatever you were trying to make as an item in your hand. These tool heads can be combined with sticks. This will finalize the tool creation process. As you can see, flint tools are not known for their durability, so you'll want to pick up any flint that you see in your travels. While journeying for your starting resources, you'll likely come across berry bushes here. Whether you're a brand new Seraph or just need a refresher, I'll be teaching you everything you need to know to survive and thrive. Vintage Story is a complicated game, and existing guides last ages. I'm here to change that by explaining everything you need to know in
What do you say when a Jewish boy is kicked on a New York City sidewalk?
the very first thing you want to do in your Vintage Story world. If you want to go a step further, you can also take the bushes and replant them at the place you choose to settle down later. Now that we've secured starting tools and flint, we can get to making a knife. This knife will be necessary to expand our inventory. In case you hadn't noticed, until this point you've only had access to the hotbar. With your knife equipped, approach some cattails. When cut with a knife, cattails will drop themselves while leaving the roots intact. With at least 10 cattails in hand, we can make a hand basket. Vintage Story operates on the classic RPG backpack system, where you have multiple backpack slots determining the space to place the starter for your fire pit. If you want to go a step further, you can also journeying for your starting resources, you'll likely come across berry bushes here and there. Hold operates on the classic and will come down when it's finally done chopping. A little bit more saturation than berries. But we haven't actually gotten to cooking yet, so let's explain that now. With your axe, target the bottom block of a tree. The whole thing will come down when it's finally done chopping, so be patient. Now we need to take our axe and make this wood into firewood. Take your knife and cut some grass. Then shift right-click the ground with the dry grass to place the starter for your fire pit. Adding logs to this with shift right-click will slowly build it into a fire pit. Then we take 2 sticks and a piece of dry grass to make a fire starter. Yep, we're rubbing sticks together to start fire. Hold shift right-click on the fire pit with your fire starter and your character will attempt to light it. With some patience and persistence, we can get a fire burning. Now we take whatever it is that we want to cook, and we place it in the fire pit. Unlike in certain other games, the items don't simply process automatically. You have to wait for your food to get hot enough to actually be considered cooking. In the case of cattail roots, once they get past 150 degrees, they'll start cooking, and the arrow here will slowly fill until it's done. If our fire pit burns out, the heat doesn't dissipate immediately. Rather than having to relight the fire, you can simply place more firewood inside it and it'll relight itself if it's still hot. With night rapidly approaching, we'll need a place to spend the night. Personally, I'm quite partial to a more primitive hut to start things off. While in some circles it's frowned upon to build a starting house out of dirt, in Vintage Story you can turn dirt into a more suitable building block for a beginner. Taking 6 dirt and arranging it in the crafting grid, you can turn it into packed dirt. With 1.20, you can now also turn that packed dirt into rammed earth. As you can see, rammed earth looks more like a traditional Native American sort of building material than regular old dirt. And if you want to go one step further, you can craft it one last time, and you get a block with some wear that looks awfully rustic. At any point during your journey, you might find yourself set upon by some manner of wild beast. While it's a bit cheesy, placing blocks upwards will allow you to escape. Simply jump and right-click the ground beneath yourself, and you can place a block. Then repeat the process until you're roughly 2 or 3 blocks away. If you happen to provoke the wildlife, say approaching too close to a wolf or a moose, or maybe throwing rocks at it, you can escape all retribution simply by standing on your pillar. The animal will most likely get bored and leave, and you'll be safe. With my coward pillar dismantled, the wolf is left to go live its own life. But if your encounters with the wildlife don't go so smoothly, and you happen to be torn to shreds, the game is kind enough to automatically mark the location where you died. On default settings, you'll have roughly 10 minutes to go retrieve your items before they disappear. If you'd like to get rid of that waypoint once you retrieve your items, just right-click it on the map and you can choose delete from there. Bear with me here, I promise I'm a good builder. Would you shut up? But for demonstration purposes, let's take that wood and dirt we got earlier and make ourselves a place to stay when it gets dark. So we'll fill in the walls here. We can craft ourselves a crude door to keep the beasts out. But you may notice, the crude door says that it tends to fall apart when used. Every time you open and close the crude door, it has a chance to break. While it's relatively forgiving, you wouldn't want the door to fall apart on you when you're running from something. If the aesthetic of a crudely tied together door isn't particularly important to you, you can get around this by making a wattle gate. With 3 sticks and a knife, you can make a gate that never breaks no matter how many times you open or close it. While offering superior visibility, the gate is also just as effective as the door at keeping wolves out of your house. If you'd like, you can add a new fireplace inside your home. The place won't burn down, so there's no need to worry. And if you're sick of lighting fireplaces by hand, we can craft a torch using a single stick and 2 pieces of dry grass. Putting the torch in your fireplace will light it once it gets hot enough. But if you get it wet, the torch goes out. When placed, a torch acts as a light source, but it will burn out in 48 hours in-game, or roughly an hour of real time. This makes it an effective but relatively temporary light source. But even if it's temporary, the torch holds a secondary utility. Instead of fumbling around rubbing sticks together, if you ever need to light a fire, you can simply use the torch instead with shift right click. Just like our ancestors, you can simply keep transferring the same fire between objects instead of lighting a new one. If you have particularly unfriendly guests outside your door, a spear makes short work of them. Unlike an axe, which has an attack range of 2 meters, a spear can attack from 3.5 meters away. And if the creature trying to slay you attempts to run away, it can even be thrown. With that same knife as earlier, you can shift right-click an animal corpse. This will butcher the animal, opening up an inventory where you can take its meat, hide, and fat. All items you'll need later. Destroying its skeleton will also give us bones. While bones aren't particularly useful on their own, they can be used as a substitute for a branch when making stone tools. This adds additional durability to the tool. As you probably noticed, we took a bit of damage in our scuffle with that wolf. Thankfully, if we collect some horsetail, we can craft it together with cattails to make a horsetail poultice. This is a primitive bandage that can heal your wounds. Your first night as a seraph will likely be spent sitting in your house cowering, but we definitely don't want to have to spend every night doing that. So come morning, make sure you remember what